Welcome to this IPL final edition of KimAppa. Jarrod and Robbie here. This is kismet. We start a podcast, Robbie, at random, and the only franchise that both of us have worked for have gone on to win the first IPL, which is such a weird and stupid thing. We did the podcast the other day, and you kept saying "we," and I made fun of you, rightfully, for that. But how do you feel right now? Right after everything that RCB have gone through, you know, the Vijay Mallya parties, Vijay Mallya not being in the country, the Test 11 that they picked, 2016, 2009, all these different things. Some of them you've been involved with, some that you haven't, but you've always had this relationship with this franchise. Right now, how do you feel?
Honestly, a little relieved. More because the monkey is off my back from that 2009 final. People, even now, after putting up the tweet and just really happy, all people can do is talk about 2009 again. I'm like, dude, get over it, man. You won a championship now. We won a championship now. Like, move on now. But I'm so happy. Like, there's someone got like I put out a video today about just some of the support stuff and just the emotions of the fans. Been waiting for so many years, the families, and just the burden of those, not burden, but I'd say the expectations and the energy of the families, because they feel those raw emotions as much as the athletes do. So I reckon there are 3 or 4 guys there in that side that have been there from day one. And that is, as I'm going to name them, Shankar Basu. I think he's been there from 2009 or 10, I think. 9 I reckon. There's Mane Kaka, Mane Kaka was the masseur of the Indian cricket team and then was with RCB. There's Evan Speechley, the physio. Used to be the South African cricket team's physio, and then has been with the team from inception. So these guys are guys who've been through everything exactly like Virat Kohli has been through, right? So.
And it has been chaotic, let's be honest. Like, the Vijay Mallya period was completely nuts. And at one stage, he wasn't even in the country, right? Like, that creates conflict. It creates problems. The way that the auctions went about, you know, there was that one year when Corey Anderson was the death bowler. Like, you know, just absolutely kind of randomness. Diageo take over. And you know, it was a mess of a franchise. You then have, you know, eventually Virat sort of stepping down. You know, they put all their eggs into the Dan Vettori basket for ages, and it didn't really work. Like, the RCB fans have just been through this the whole time. And if you didn't know, if you hadn't seen the memes or the trolling of them, they'd acted like this team was like much better and much stronger than it was. While it was, let's be honest, I'm looking for the exact word, a clown show for a long period of time. Like, it really struggled to get together and just be professional and do the right things. I'm not, you know, players and coaches and managers. There are various people trying to do the right thing, but it just didn't work for them. And so for me, it's like, this is the win for, I'm sure those 4 people that you talked about are huge, but so many of these RCB fans have been living and dying this since day one. And let's be honest, mostly they've been dying it, Robbie, because it has been a grim team to follow.
Yeah, absolutely. It has been a grim team to follow to a certain degree. And I think in all of these years, in 18 years, probably this is the third, like, very, very, very good side that they have. And Virat Kohli said it, and we've been saying it all along, right? It is the bowlers that win you championships, right? It's not your batters. Come at the final, who turned up for RCB? Did the batters turn up? Everyone chipped in the 25s, under 30s, 140 odd. Who turns up? A Bhuvaneshwar Kumar, a Krunal Pandya, a Yash Dayal, a Josh Hazelwood. These are the guys who win you championships. And finally, after a really long time, RCB have actually picked a great bowling unit. I remember as soon as the auction got over, I was hoping for 2 people to be picked in RCB as far as bowling is concerned. And the 2 people was Josh Hazelwood and Bhuvaneshwar Kumar. Because I just felt everyone will look past Bhuvi as a spent entity because of narratives, and he doesn't play for India anymore. but I still think he's an exceptionally high quality bowler, especially under pressure. His calm demeanor, his execution of skills. He might be 5K slower than he used to be, but the effectiveness is still there. The performance under pressure is still there. And you can't take away that death bowling against Shashank Singh tonight. That was just on point, and that took the game completely away from Punjab Kings.
I mean, you talk about the bowlers. It's really fascinating, isn't it? Because my big issue was that they had three defensive bowlers. And it was like, how are you going to get wickets on the other end? Krunal Pandya, I don't think has ever taken 17 wickets in an IPL season before. I'd have to check that, but I'm pretty sure that I was asking my team before. Boovi hasn't been taking wickets for a long time. Like he's become a defensive bowler. And Hazelwood's had a couple of years, but he's not a consistent wicket taker. He's not a strike bowler in the way that other people are. Like that's three pretty big things to go your way, right? In 1 year. And they've all been brilliant in different ways at different times. And I wouldn't say that any of them have been at their absolute best. Like Krunal Pandya, probably wicket taking, but I've seen him be a great defensive bowler before. Boovi had years way back when he was incredible. And as good as Josh has been, we just saw again in the final, he could be hittable at times. But that combination of those three allowed them to be a completely different team than they've been for like the entire history of the IPL, right? Like after all these years of just going, well, you need a bowling attack. You need a bowling attack. They're like, okay, we're going to go all in with defensive bowlers. And they've all exceeded expectations.
So you also have to give credit to the likes of a Mobo Bhatt and Andy Flower and Dinesh Karthik for the kind of team that they picked, right? You knew that they needed a solid bowling lineup. And we've like guys who've, spoken about RCB, and I've said this myself. I said, y'all can't be so batting heavy and expect to win a championship because bowling is what helps you win championships. So they've done a great job. For the longest time, RCB was so top heavy, and it just didn't have the quality of the high quality like T20 match winners. T20 match winners. A lot of the bowlers within the side would have been one-day match winners or test match winners, right? But T20 match winners, and they didn't have that for a fair few years. And the fact that they actually have that now, and again, Josh and Bhuvi, proven entities. Krunal, multiple IPL winning player. So I think they got this right, and you got to give credit where it's due, especially to that support staff. And Rajat Patidar, man, he's been pretty tremendous. Like, has flown obviously right under the radar because Virat is there and the attention is always going to be on Virat. But he's actually led the team pretty well.
No, definitely. And also, you and I have talked about this sort of stuff forever. There's different kinds of leadership. Like Shubman Gill's going to take over the test team, and there's a bit of a gap. And you get a chance to sort of push yourself in and make yourself, comfortable. It's much harder to be a captain of something when Virat Kohli is in the side. And everything in RCB has been run through Virat Kohli for a long period of time. Even the decisions that he doesn't make are made based on what people think he will like, which is part of the problem with that franchise, right? They've been so worried about what he might or might not do or might not like that they haven't even made the right decisions. So to go in and be a young player and captain that, when you're still making your mark and you're not like a big time international player, really, it's a lot of respect from our point of view. And we both like Shreyas Iyer as a tactical captain, but Patidar hasn't stood out in any way, shape or form as being a poor captain all year long, right? Like he's completely held what he has had to do and kept this team together. And I wouldn't say it's a fragile team, but if you think about it, there's a lot of hitters in that team. They could have had a period where a couple of people got out of form in a row, and then you start to panic a little bit, and he's not making as many runs because he didn't have like a great year with the bat himself. He could have got down, he could have worried about things, and instead he's gone the other way all year. And this was maybe one of the few knocks where I was like, this is what he looked like he was in his best form. I was shocked when he went out because he looked like he was finally timing them the way that he had been last year.
And he is a big match player, isn't he? And he did well, I think, even a couple of seasons ago in a big game. I think it was a qualifier game where he got 100. helped them qualify. So he has been a big match player, and something happens to these guys when they turn up and play these big matches. They just kind of switch on, and it brings the best out of them. And I think his captaincy has been really, really good. And if you look at the way he's utilized his bowlers, for me, that says a lot. And I think you saw it. And I think a little bit of it went amiss because his batting wasn't coming through. And then Jitesh led for 2 or 3 games. But all in all, I think he's done a phenomenal job.
I'm going to ask you a question. Who is their player of the year?
That's a tough one.
That's my point. And I think that's a really...
I'm going to give it to Josh Hazelwood, though.
It's probably Josh, isn't it? I mean, you probably can't give it to Tim David, who did very, very well, but didn't actually face that many balls. You know, Kohli had a great record. Jitesh is another one that you would look at as well. Phil Salt, when he played, was quite good. Krunal Pandya, because he had the one big knock when he made, 70-odd. And he also takes all of those wickets. But that's the point of when you look at it, it's like, it's not clear cut where you go. And that's one of the big strengths. And if you think about the bad RCB times, it really feels like it's one or two guys. And then everyone else is like trying to like tread water behind them. This is a proper team, right?
Proper team effort.
You talked about all the support stuff, like, you know, Freddie Wild, who was involved with it. Like, Freddie Wild, during this RCB run, I'm pretty sure I'm right in saying this, lost his job. He was the England analyst, and England have decided to move on from him. So he's the analyst at RCB while all this is going on. And, you know, I've had a lot to do with him. This looks like the sort of team that comes from people like Mo Baba and Freddie Wild and Dinesh Karthik and Andy Flower and these sorts of guys who have been sitting down in a room, because this is what you want. You want it to be that there are guys like Shepherd and Jitesh and David who can explode, right? You want it so that there is Livingston can bowl a little bit, you know, when you need him to be able to bowl. You know, where you've got options, you know, it isn't just one player, where you can bring in someone like Agarwal as a, what would you say, a high-performing role player, or whatever that would be.
How about that? Mayank Agarwal, what a great story.
Yeah.
Sitting down at home, doing nothing, not been picked in the IPL, led, I think, the last season, the last season when he played for Punjab or something like that. And then comes in out of the blue because of Devdutt Padikkal. And two clutch performances, I would say. Yep.
And you look at his career, so he plays 4 games last year, 10 games the year before, 13 and 12. So those are the last 2 major years he's had. His last big year in the IPL is 2021. Like, it's a big call to come back and perform like that. And as you said, when you're not expecting to play and everything else. And I'll throw in another random player as well, which would be Bethnal, right? Bethel, sorry. He comes in. Bethnal Green, which is a tube station, I think. He comes in, and I'm like, you look at him he's been playing as like an anchor sometimes. He plays down the order for teams. And then it's like, no, you're going to bat at the top of the order. Every like little decision that they make, right? Like, I really like the seam bowler that they didn't use all that much this year, who I still think can be an interesting one going ahead.
Nuance Tushara.
Yeah, and the other one, the Indian guy, Rafiq Salam. Like, they moved on from those guys at times when I was like, oh, maybe they need to give them more of a go or whatever. It felt like every single decision just sort of came together like a perfect puzzle, right?
Yeah, it did. And from what I heard also about RCB this year, apparently the mood in the team was very relaxed. Everyone was just really happy. And it was just like, unlike any other year, the camaraderie, the energy in the group was a really happy one, a really buoyant one, and everyone really felt extremely good about themselves and extremely good about just being around the team. And I reckon, you know, when you're happy and when you're feeling secure and you have consistency with the opportunities that come your way and your roles defined, man, you're giving yourself the best chance to be successful. And that's the best you can do in team sport. You give every player the best chance to be successful.
Let's talk about the game a little bit. I think we've talked about this before, although you might not have been around. But I've got this theory this thing called Schrodinger's Kohli, where when Kohli plays in the first innings of a T20 game, you're never quite sure if he's made enough runs to win the game or not. And if you go back, the last World Cup final is the most famous example of this, right? This innings, before I didn't even bring it up, Robbie, and everyone's just hitting me on every social media going, is this going to be Schrodinger's Kohli? In the end, he's actually not played a great innings, and he got very stuck, and he didn't get to explode to get his strike rate up. But I would argue, yes, the bowlers were the main part, as you said before, but I would also argue that if you look at this, his job really is to make sure that everyone else can try and hit, right? And he got stuck today and probably scored slower than he wanted to because of the wicket and the weird bounce that they sometimes got and everything else. But they still went 9 wickets down. And the reason they lost so many wickets is everyone else goes so hard. So his 35 balls or 39 balls or whatever it was that
43,
he ends up facing.
35, 43.
Yeah. The 35 balls that he faces actually stretches out the innings a little bit. It was just that he went too slow, but the same thing happened with everyone else. He still played his role within that, even if it wasn't the great Virat Kohli innings. And if they'd lost, we both know what every narrative would be right now.
See, you can, yeah, as in sure. But the thing is, you have to understand that on a very human level, as in how much it takes out of someone like Kohli, right? As in he knows he needs to be there. The fans want him to be there. The team wants him to be there. And as long as he's there, you know he's not going to bat below 120 strike rate, 125 strike rate, right? And I think that's what he managed to do today, 123, 125 strike rate.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
He was ticking it over. He was getting singles easily. And he was setting up, like when Agarwal was in, he was getting Agarwal back on strike and he was swinging. He just couldn't connect, right?
Yeah. And I think that was like when you've been in these kind of situations multiple times, right? Virat's been there in 2009, 2011, 2016. They've been there multiple times. And when you get to that stage multiple times and it hasn't come through, and there's so much burden of expectation, burden of emotion that's there, you will kind of slow down. And that's also what happened in the T20 World Cup final in 2024. Where he slowed down and just batted almost around the ball, but made sure he batted through the innings and up the ante more towards the end. I think he had a pretty similar template for today. He just kind of hung in there for as long as he could. And then, I think he just rotated the strike really, really well. Obviously, that slower bouncer, I think got him undone. But otherwise, I think his batting was really good. Not too many boundaries, only 4 dot balls. So a lot of things right in that innings. But he could afford to play like that because, like you said, the rest of the guys were just going hammer and tongs, So it made sense for him to bat like that till a certain point, because the opposition always feels a lot of pressure when the likes of a Virat Kohli is batting there, irrespective of how fast or how slow he's batting. It does not matter.
No, exactly. And if you look at the team, we talked about, I mean, I didn't believe in the team all that much coming in because I didn't think they'd take wickets. So they've exceeded that. But the thing I liked about their batting was Kohli could bat long. And then you have, well, in the end, you had Agarwal, not Patidar, but you had Salt and Patidar and Livingston and Jitesh, Romario, Krunal. You would have, David, if he'd been available, might have played in this game as well. You had all these other guys. Yeah, Livingston. Sorry, I skipped over him. And you look at the scoreboard, that's kind of what happened today. And so even if Phil Salt and Patidar didn't explode, they made 42 runs off about 25 balls between them, right? Like that's again works really well. And then Romario and Jitesh doing a similar kind of thing at the end. They managed to get them there. It's probably still, I think at the halfway point, I backed RCB. Because I thought that was probably slightly above par, and you still had to go through Hazelwood. In the end, Hazelwood didn't have his greatest game, but you still had to go through Hazelwood to get that title, right? And then once we saw Krunal's first over, it was like, this looks a lot tougher now. Like the conditions were very different, and having that really good finger spinner really put a clamp on Punjab a lot, didn't they?
Yeah, it did. And it did. As in today's game, like the irony of it is that it is a testimony of the kind of season RCB had. Like literally, it was an absolute out and out team effort, right? All the batters contributed like 20, 25, 17, 35, 43. And then the bowlers come to the fore. All your bowlers come to the fore. From your Hazelwood to Yash Dayal to Bhuvi to Krunal Pandya. Like, they just turn up. And Krunal Pandya to get an IPL man of the match in the final, that shows how, people think he's overrated. I think he's truly well rated. I think he augurs the price that he gets. I think he bats too low to be effective. If he bats higher up, he can be a lot more effective. And I think he's a very wily left arm spinner. And I think his variations on a track that helps a little bit the spinners. And there was no dew today. It was pretty dry as well. And so it took a little bit of turn. He got the batters to get stuck a little bit. And he just dipped into his experience. And again, there you go. Another multiple time IPL winner.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a reason why he's that level of player as well. Like, I think it was RCB actually that started using this phrase first in cricket, which is the three-tool player, right? They started basically talking about looking for people who could bat, bowl, and field. And Krunal Pandya is that kind of player. Like, you could throw him in any kind of environment and he works. Also, a shout out for Romario Shepherd, who...
Yeah.
West Indies have, I don't want to say they've tried to ruin him over the years, but like the amount of times I'll be commentating a game and Romario Shepherd will be opening the bowling. And I'm like, my dudes, what are you doing? Romario Shepherd is not an opening bowler. If he's going to bowl, he bowls in the middle overs and he bowls really attacking. And because he has that slingy action, he can sometimes get some stuff on, the slower ball, the reverse, all those sorts of things happen.
His bouncer is also quite heavy.
I was going to say, because he's strong, isn't he? It comes at you.
He's strong. He's got a round arm action. So that round arm action, when it's bowled short, it just catches you unaware, and then it makes you feel stuck, to be honest, especially the trajectory and the angles that he gets.
And let me tell you about Romario Shepherd. I met him when he was about 18, 19, and he was one of the politest, nicest, and
yeah, you said so. I remember you telling me.
Curious, like, do you know what I mean? He wanted to know things and stuff, right? And I remember thinking, I write, I have the little notebook. You don't want to see what I've written about you, but I have my little notebook, writing notes about people, and I was like, professional. Like, I remember writing that down, being like, this is a guy who's going to be able to do something. So I think it's a really good thing for him to be able to do that. And, there's another fight back in the bowling. Oh, Suya Sharma. What's his first over go for? 12, 13? Like, it felt like, was there 2 sixes in that first over?
Yeah, he went for a bit. I think he went for 15, 14 or 15 or so, I think.
And he's come back in his second over and done really well. In fact, the over they gave Romario, where Romario got Shreyas, I thought they might go back to Shuyash there, just because he, they weren't going to attack as hard as they were going to at that point. And so for him to come back later, I thought was also a really good. Just so many great stories. And you talked about Yash Dayal as well. This is a guy who's been kind of bouncing around a little bit and people are not quite sure of what to make of him. I thought, again, he bowled really well. And he's not, I don't think he's ever going to be a consistent bowler, as in there are going to be times when the ball doesn't come out perfectly from his hand. But we both know that when it comes out right and he gets the rhythm, he's as hard to play as anyone.
Yeah, he is. And I think he's a little uncanny, is Yash. I think the fact that he can swing the ball both ways, he's got a fairly decent Yorker, and I agree with you. I think consistency is his issue. If he can sort that out, certainly someone who can play for India for sure. Because they're always looking for fast bowlers, aren't they? I'm thinking, how good would he be in red ball cricket? Swing the ball both ways, decent slow ball, back of the hand. He's got the off cutter as well, fairly decent bouncer. If he gets consistent, there's certainly an opportunity there.
What stage did you think they had the game? Is it the Shreyas wicket?
No.
Later.
It was the Vadera wicket for me.
Oh, okay.
I think the Vadera wicket just, and that spell was a good one from Yash and from Bhuvi. So I think that is when I felt, okay, this is done. It's too much in a big game to get, and if you have to win from there, they needed 12 balls, 42, like 21 and over. It's too hard from there. So I think 3 overs before that, I was like, okay, this game's done.
Well, we're talking about him. I mean, he's obviously someone who got really stuck during that knock, right? And
Mm.
I don't want to talk about 2009 because I wouldn't want to bring that up to my friend. But
No, you can bring it up.
no, I wouldn't. I wouldn't do that to you. I didn't just do it in a really
No, it's
subtle
fine.
way.
No, do it.
Um,
Let's do it.
you know what it's like to be on that side of it, is my point. And
Yeah.
you know what it's like.
Yeah.
And like there was a shot that he played today, which I when when I was doing the watch log, I said it's like someone super glued his feet to the ground and then tickled him as the ball came down. Like he almost fell over without moving his feet. He had no balance. And it's like that could happen to you on a regular Tuesday night game and no one cares. It happens to you in a final when your side's already in that position. You end up being that guy, don't you, for a little while. And you have to deal with
Yeah.
that until you can conquer it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's gonna bother him for a bit. And it's gonna run in his head on loop for a bit. But I think he's got the wherewithal to contend with it and overcome it and move on. We all do. And you know, it bothers you for a while, but the sun does rise the next day. Life does move on, and if you've got your wits about yourself, you will move on, and you will use that as learning, and you'll apply that learning to your life, and it'll work in your favor, whether it's with that franchise or with another franchise. It will work.
Is there something that is there a process you need to go through in that situation? Like, are there things you need to tick off to be like, okay, so first thing I need to go back and watch it or not watch it, make a decision like that. Then I have to go, was it just a bad innings, or was it something else going on? Like, how do you kind of process it?
Um, for me at that point, I didn't process it. For me, it was um, before that. I think it was before that tournament in 2009 when I didn't know it because there wasn't self-awareness, but it was the start of me being clinically depressed and like being suicidal because that was when that first episode of trying to commit suicide happened in South Africa during the course of that tournament. So for me, it was just it was a whole bunch of stuff that happened during that time that I didn't know how to contend with. And I knew that like this just pushed me further down the spiral for a long time. And it was only, but luckily by the end of IPL, I at least felt like I belonged to RCB. But I felt like I let the team down, and I was dealing with a whole lot of other stuff, which was more my personal existential stuff. And then it took me a while to overcome it or just get to a better place because that was when I actually came back and my family saw that I wasn't okay, put me on to a counselor, and then once I started going to the counselor and started talking about stuff and things started getting better and I started taking a little bit more control over my life and then felt a little bit more empowered and got to the right direction. I reckon, and then this happened again to me in 2018 with KKR. My last game for KKR was similar, where we needed to win that game as a must-win game for us, and then it went really badly. And I know that it was just a bad day at the office for me, but I let my team down tremendously. The fans were really upset with me. I was upset with myself, and the hate poured in because we were at the start of start of people just voicing their opinions, canceling people, and the whole likes of that, right? So I got to a point where I recognized pretty soon that okay, I had a bad day at the office, and it was just that my bad day at the office, and everyone has bad days at the office or at their work, and it was just that my bad day at work or our bad days at work are there for the world to
Yeah.
judge, critique, and criticize, right? So I kind of bounced back from that immediately and said, okay, I need to shut out the noise outside and just go within and use this learning to move forward with my game. And it took me, 2 years after that, 2.5 years after that, to win the IPL again in 2021 and contribute and play well under pressure.
Yeah.
So it's not like the stuff wasn't there. The stuff was always there. People can have their opinions and people can write you off. But if you know who you are and what you're made out of, and if you have the tools to deal with it and the self-awareness to deal with stuff, then you can certainly deal with it and move on and come out shining for sure.
It's interesting because obviously he'll get some of the flack, or although I think they were already pretty far behind on that pitch. I think once it got over 10.5 runs and over, I thought it was always
was
going to be
tough.
quite tricky. Yeah. Just because we saw a couple of splurges of RCB, but they never really got away either. You look at this side though, man, and Marcus Stoinis is a little bit older, right?
Yeah.
But Marcus Stoinis is retired from all other formats, so he's got some time left. Everyone else is pretty young in this side. Like there's,
How old is Marcus?
he would be
33?
what, 32 or 33, I would have thought. Yeah.
Oh,
Does
he's
that
got
sound
a
right?
few years left in him, bro.
He's 35. He doesn't look 35.
He doesn't.
No, he's got two. But so he's the only one there that you look at and think probably won't be there for the whole cycle, right? But Josh Inglis is pretty young. The two openers are very young. Obviously, Shreyas, Shashank, Omazai, Jameson. I'm not saying all those guys will be there for the whole run. Arshdeep is young.
Marco Jansen's going to come back.
Marco Jansen's another one.
Arshdeep's going to be there. They're obviously going to bring in a couple of other bowlers, because there were at times when you need to have foreign backup fast bowlers who are of equal quality of your first choice, or you need to have an experienced Indian fast bowler who can take the load on when push comes to shove. And with Yuzi there, they will, I think they didn't get his full services and he wasn't in form in the first few games. He wasn't bowling very well in the first few games, but I think he picked it up after a point. But I think there will be a few new inclusions as far as bowling is concerned. But their batting has been solid, right? They've batted exceptionally well. And Arshdeep, I think only in that final over in the final did he actually bowl like the Arshdeep we know. He has been slightly off color over the last 3 or 4 games. And I think there's obviously a certain intensity to say, okay, I really need to make my performance count. And the fact that Marco Jansen's not there, so a little bit more. And it's not like he's not up to it. He's up to it. But sometimes when you try too hard, things can fall apart sometimes.
Yeah, it looked like he was trying for wickets rather than just bowling his best ball. And once you stop getting wickets, that's what you start doing, because you're like, well, if I get a wicket, it will turn around. So you try harder, and sometimes it goes in the wrong direction. I'm just trying to have a look. You've got Harpreet Brar as another younger player that they have on the contract. So there's plenty of younger players here. Obviously, Maxwell won't be back. Stoinis probably will be back. Chahal, they probably don't get too many more years out of Chahal, but they should get
3 years,
at least 2. Yeah, if they get to the end of the cycle, they've done okay, right?
Yeah.
So my point being is that what Ponting has done here is rebuilt another Delhi where whether they win a title or not. Look, those are the things that RCB fans will have plenty of answers on how that. But they should have built a good cycle here. And I think Punjab fans have to be happy after all the sort of nonsense that's been going on at their franchise for years. This looks like a really good, solid squad that should be playoff around for the next few years.
I can confidently say that they look bright to win a championship in the next 2 or 3 years. I would be like exceedingly surprised and flabbergasted if they do not win an IPL championship over the next 2 or 3 years.
I could say, as the person who backed them at 14-1 this year, that this is the year they should have won.
But they haven't.
But they haven't. But you know, I think when you're putting these sides together, I always, when I was doing it, I would always say, look, it's whether we win or lose that's the bit that we can't control. What we can control is all the pieces along. And both of these franchises have done really well with this. I don't know if you remember this moment, but when in the first time they played each other, when RCB weren't chasing very much against Punjab, I saw Andy Flower, Mo Baba, and I think Dinesh Karthik all together, all trying to tell every single batter to play straight. And it sounds like a really obvious thing. And if you remember back on that wicket, the ball was keeping a little bit low and everyone was getting bowled and everything. But it was the ferocity at which the message was put across. They've got a lot of really good communicators at RCB. So we've talked about Punjab's future. What's RCB's future? Because it's a slightly older side, a slightly more experienced side, not in a bad way. I don't think they're about to lose a bunch of people, but it's not like Punjab.
Yeah, I don't think they will change the squad. I don't think they should. I think they should just keep everyone as is.
Run it back. Run it back.
Yeah, just run it back. Just don't do anything. Just leave it exactly as it is. See what comes out of it and take a call post the next season, I would just keep it as it is, not change anything much, because it's working. Don't fix something that's not broken. That's something I absolutely believe. So I hope they stay with the same side, and they should. They won the championship.
What if you? I'm just looking at their squad now, trying to work out. Like maybe you would get an overseas wrist spinner or someone if you wanted a backup spinner. If you're a little bit worried, there isn't really much else they need to do, right? They've got because they've got Ngidi, Hazelwood, and Tushara. So maybe one more seasoned backup for Hazelwood in case he disappears or gets injured.
I'm telling you, Tushara is a good enough backup.
No, I think he's a good bowler. I don't know if he's a backup. I think he's almost a different kind of player for
correct. Exactly what I'm saying. And I think he's someone who will be extremely useful, and Bhuvi will thrive with him as well. See, Bhuvi's got 2 more years on him, right? I reckon 2 more years, if not maybe 3, right? And I reckon Bhuvi needs a solid bowler like either Hazelwood or a Tushara, because they're very different from Bhuvi. Ngidi is a similar bowler like Bhuvi. And like the pace and the variations are pretty much similar. So you want someone to be starkly different from Bhuvi for him to bowl well and for him to thrive. And I like Nuance Tushara. In fact, if there's a way they can play all 3 of them together, they should. But they'd have to drop probably Livingston then to do that. Because he's effective with the new ball, man.
Yeah, Livingston is possibly someone that you could move on from in this squad because they have backups in that position if they wanted to make it. But I'm with you. I think run it back makes the most sense, and just make a couple of small changes around the outside. Is there anything else you want to say about RCB and everything?
Yeah.
Like what have you got? Give it to me. Give it to me, Mr. RCB.
Not Mr. RCB, but just as a Bangalorean, I genuinely feel happy and proud. And I'm certain there are a certain other Bangaloreans who would also feel very happy and proud, the likes of Rahul Dravid, the likes of Anil Kumble, the likes of, even though he's not playing there, Manish Pandey. We'll be very happy for KL Rahul. We'll be very happy for the RCB fans because they've all played for RCB, so they know the emotions behind it. I'm certain, Jacques Callis, who's been a big part of that side for a fair few years, will be happy with this. Will be happy with the fact that they finally won it. Of course, AB de Villiers and Chris Gale. Shane Watson, there's S. Arvind who's played for this side, Vinay Kumar who's played for this side. A lot of Bangaloreans will be very happy, especially for the fans in Bangalore, for the fans who've backed this team and supported this team and stood by this team through all thick and thin, that they'll be really happy. There'll be a very quiet part of them inside that'll be like, yeah, I'm glad it's happened. You know what I mean? And I think everyone should celebrate it. Party into the night. I read a tweet where someone said, we won now. Can we go and have fun and celebrate? And will you not moral police us? Was a tweet that was sent out to me because I'm after what I said about the RCB fans. So basically the fan fights that happened during the CSK RCB game, I said stuff. So they were going after me. So
we've also said more positive things about RCB fans than any other podcast in the world.
Yeah. So
and both of us know what it is like to be in that situation. And it's funny when you think back on it. Like I was doing some research on Virat Kohli recently, and you realize, and you lived some of this, what a party atmosphere it was off the field, and how Vijay Mallya wanted to make all the players really happy. And it didn't always go exactly to plan, and there were some things that shouldn't happen in a professional sporting environment. So I almost feel like RCB started in the IPL by partying, and now they've finally deserved the party. Do you know what I mean? They've brought it back around, Robbie, to finally be at the point of yes, we did the work and everything else. And that you look at some of the people they have there. These are serious people making serious cricket decisions. That wasn't always the case with this franchise, sadly. It wasn't how it was run.
Well, see, he wanted to win. I know that. As in, I know
Yeah,
that
of course.
Malaya wanted to win because he wanted to win at everything, right? So he really wanted to win, but that didn't happen, and that left him pretty frustrated. And they tried everything till they were the owners of the side, and then I don't think Diageo initially, perhaps as an ownership, worried so much about winning versus being profitable as the business entity. And I think over a period of time, they saw the emotions of the fans and they got to work. And I think they finally got it right. They've been trying for about 8 years now, I reckon. Uh, and and I think they've got it right finally. And whoever hired Mobo Bhatt and Andy Flower and Dinesh Karthik, well done, guys. You
Yeah,
deserve it.
exactly.
This
And
is it's fantastic. Great stuff.
also, people who are all pushing in the same direction, like that's kind of how you need to put these
Yeah.
teams together. We've got some super chats. Should we take those? There's one
Yeah.
about Andy
Yeah,
Flower
let's-
actually, which is Kaushal says, "Why is Andy Flower so successful? All teams he coached always entered a playoff in the competition. He's won the PSL, ILT20, and IPL in the span of 3 years." So the interesting thing about Andy Flower is, I think he's a much better coach now than he was when he coached England, and he got England to #1 in the world. And one of the problems he had with England was his intensity as a person was really off-putting, and he's an awkward guy. Like, I don't mean this in a bad way, but have you heard the story about it? Tim Wigmore wrote about it in his book recently, of Andy Flower made himself tapes on his Walkman back in the 90s, and then would listen to them at night. And he was saying, I can slow the ball down. I can be the world's best batter. Like, he made those tapes for himself and then listened to himself saying that. Like, he's at level of intensity that is so different to other people. He wrote down, I want to be world's #1 player, and then went #1 batter, sorry, and went through all the different ways that he might be able to achieve that. I think what he needed was probably after the England job to understand that it's how to interact with the people a little bit more and bring it down and make people feel more comfortable in the environment that he was building. And everyone I've talked to that he's worked with over the last 4, 5, 6 years now has said he's so much better at just making people feel comfortable. Whereas before, everyone was like terrified of letting him down because he's such a perfectionist. And he's still like that. He's still driven. It's just that he's allowing people to find their own way and not trying to make them into little Andy Flowers.
Yeah, he's more tempered about it, right? And I think that's the thing about leadership, right? When you're leading a team where you don't have so much in control, where you can just make the calls outside the field and get a great side and make sure they're as well prepared as they can be before they go into a game, then you start getting a little bit self-aware, and then he had a lot of success with England, and then it tapered off for a little bit.
Yeah.
And I'm certain that there was a lot of learnings from his tapering off, and then I think he applied those learnings clearly to good use with PSL and ILT20 and IPL in the span of 3 years. So he knows what it takes to get a team into a winning kind of formula or a winning template, and I think he's stuck to that. And I think he's got the right personnel alongside him to. I'm certain someone like Dinesh Karthik would have made him feel a lot more relaxed as a human being, because DK can be quite intense. And when I say quite intense, I mean like seriously intense. And so for me, I think the people around him also complimented him quite a bit. And DK, kudos to DK, man. I think, I remember speaking to him in SA20, and he's like, I haven't done this before. I don't know how it's going to be. I'm just going to figure it out how it goes. And he's done a stellar job, man. Congratulations to him. I think he's done actually a stellar job with his side. Even after this series, after this championship win, I saw Mobo Bhatt taking Virat aside and actually having a conversation like he was planning something for the future. It seemed like that. I was like, that's quite an intense conversation after winning a championship. What are they talking about? I'd love to know. So clearly what they're doing is working. Right. And I think Andy has been a big cog in that wheel. You could see that there were plans that were made. You could see from the reactions of Andy during the course of the game that there were times where he was disappointed, he was wincing, he was frowning, but that belief had to stay there. And this is the thing about winning championships, right? It's not the 11 on the field. It's not even the 15 or the 25 players you have. It's the entire squad. You need 40 people moving in one direction, believing that this is going to happen, not worrying about how it's going to happen, when it's going to happen or where it's like why it's going to happen. It's just about knowing it is going to happen, and you believe in every decision that is made, and you trust that all the things that you've done will line up together when it matters for you to win the championship, and make sure you create a happy atmosphere. And from what I hear, RCB have done that this year. They've created a really happy atmosphere, and all their ducks kind of lined up come at the final.
Also, I just want to point out that Andy Flower was obviously involved in a very successful Zimbabwe side in the 90s into early 2000s, and they didn't win anything. And I've always said this, that like we judge people based on what the titles that they win. Whereas Andy Flower has proven that he's very good at just making people better than they were beforehand.
Sure.
And now he's doing it at the top level, whether it be with England or in these other T20 leagues, the other major leagues that he's been involved with as well. Like it's really cool to be able to see someone like him, right, get to the level that he's gotten to, because not all Zimbabwe people get that opportunity.
So to that point, I'm certain the fact that he didn't win anything whilst playing was one of the catalysts for him to get into coaching, perhaps, and to win championships, because the hunger to be the best was there. Because if I have to go by what you just shared with me right now, I'm the best in the world. I slow things down. I have the ability to slow the ball down when the ball's like, that's manifestation, that's visualization at work, that's subliminal mind coaching. If you're listening to that when you're sleeping, that's actually that's subconscious coaching, basically, right? So if that is the kind of intensity that you possess and you haven't won something whilst playing,
it's got to come out of you, doesn't
control, it has to show up at some point, right? I'm certain it worked as a catalyst for him to become a very successful coach. And that's why the intensity, perhaps, it makes sense, doesn't it? Like, it's just like, it's like, hey, yeah, this makes sense. Like, this is why the intensity, and now he's tempered the intensity, and he's gotten to a place where he's found that formula as a coach, and he's just rinsing and repeating the formula.
Karthik says, Kohli completed cricket, seen it all and won the lot. I remember, I'm pretty sure in saying that in the, what was it? When they won the World Cup, Rahul Dravid was saying, now go get that WTC championship. That's probably the only thing he's obviously not going to get now. But India was number one in the world as the test team during his career. So he still has that. As we were saying the other day, it's about legacy, right? Like, we know it doesn't make him any better or worse than he was yesterday, but it's how people will remember him will change based on this.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think people don't understand the value of championships, especially players, until you retire. Because your runs don't matter, the hundreds don't necessarily matter too much, or your personal achievements will be marked up against the amount of championships you've won.
Yeah, no, exactly. Rings culture.
And yeah.
We've got some random ones here that I'll get through. Sandkelp says, apologies for the off the topic question. Does your opinion change regarding Rabada now the exact drug is public? Is coke used for pain relief too by players? What we were talking about were two different things. Yeah. What we were talking about was two different things. What we were saying is the first thing we were saying is you don't need to know if a player is taking a non-performance enhancing drug. There's no reason for the public to know that. I don't care if he was shooting heroin into his eyeballs. He's a grown adult. He's allowed to make his own mistakes and do what he does. And the second one was what Robbie was saying, is that there is actually an allowance within the regulations to be able to take some of these drugs, right, as well, which we both agree.
I don't know. Like, I can't remember us being told about cocaine, to be very honest.
It has come out since. I don't know if it's official or it's just rumor.
I'm talking about even what was permissible as players. What is permissible was about marijuana, and not and I don't remember, like, I can't remember us being told about cocaine. I remember us being told about marijuana. So I was alluding to that.
Yeah. Kenav says, congratulations RCB. Random question: have you heard of the KimAppa Fish Hotel in Uthappa?
You know what? Kanav, I haven't, but I'm going to keep an eye out because I might be traveling to Mangalore at some point. And if I do go to KimAppa, I'm going to go there and take a selfie and send it to Mr. KimAppa here.
I like. Why is it a fish hotel? Does that mean you get fish at the hotel?
No,
Or is it?
no, no. So Mangalore is basically a beach city. It's a beach district, so to speak. So
Yeah.
you get a lot of great seafood.
Is it like Kerala?
No, it's yeah, similar coastal city,
Yeah.
coastal district. Yeah.
What else do we have here? Andy says Bumrah's ability to swing almost any. I love how we've had this huge podcast about this other game, and everyone's just like, we're going to ask about
Bumrah.
fish hotels. We're going to ask about cocaine, and now we're asking about Bumrah. Is his ability to swing almost any game towards his team Jordan-esque? Has any other bowler done it at this level as consistently? Is he the closest to the Don as the guy furthest above his peers? So McGrath is the obvious one there. I don't know. I didn't bet on cricket when McGrath was around, but I would assume that if you were just betting on Australia every time McGrath had the ball in his hand and then took your money out, you would have made a lot more money because every single time he seemed to have played for Australia, he seemed to change things for them. I think Bumrah's great, but he's not anywhere near the level of Don Bradman, as in compared to his peers. Don Bradman was 40%.
Oh yeah, listen.
Yeah.
Listen. We're not even going into the West Indian fast bowlers and the whole pace quartet and all of those guys.
But they
Those
work
guys
together
were,
as well, so it's kind of different, isn't it?
No, like Malcolm Marshall could have done stuff by himself. Andy Roberts could have done stuff by himself.
There's so many great stories about Garner.
Michael Holding.
Deciding, yeah.
Michael Holding could have done stuff by himself. And these were like Dennis Lilly, Jeff Thompson.
If you're looking at
Imran Khan.
people doing it on their own as well, Hadley, Murali, and Fazal Mahmood are really famous examples of like just carrying teams and Kapil Dev, you'd have to put him up there as well because he could do it on both sides. So no, look, Bumrah's great. You're not going to get either of us saying that Bumrah isn't great. I've written about 100,000 words on him, but Rana says, how much of the loss in the eliminator play a part in Punjab's approach? They were very measured, which is not the way they played till now. No, I think they played heaps of shots. They just couldn't get the ball away.
Yeah.
I didn't see them as being measured.
Yeah, Rana, I don't think, I don't think the loss in the eliminator played any part in Punjab's approach. In fact, I thought they started so well, to be very honest. They actually started so well. I actually thought they played one shot too many, to be very honest. I thought they could have been a little bit more circumspect because they got off to a great start. They were 3.5 overs, 42 or 43 or something. I'm like, this is a freaking great start. They just need to get another 10, 15 runs. They need to get 20 runs in the next 2 overs and they'll be 70 for no loss on course to get this score down. I just think they played too many shots, perhaps. And then in trying too hard, Nehal Vadera kind of hit himself out into being looking out of form. He probably isn't out of form.
Do you know what I would say?
Again,
if you
trying
look at
too much.
They lost 2 of the 3 playoffs, right? So there is an element of that. But if you think about the one that they won, that was the best batting pitch of the 3. And the 2 when there was issues with the wicket. And I don't mean this wicket wasn't a bad wicket, but I mean there were issues as in you couldn't just stand there and deliver. You couldn't just flat back balls back over mid-off like, Prabh has been doing all tournament. You had to bat a little bit different. And I don't want to say they got found out. It was just if the wickets weren't as suitable to them in those 2 games as they were to the opposition. And sometimes that happens, right? Like who knows what happens if they bat second in the first game against RCB and RCB have to go on that other wicket. All these things can happen, but they certainly they are more of a hitting team, and these wickets were maybe a little bit more. You needed a little bit more nuance, and no one knows what these games are going to be. Sumit says, "Do you support any team, or has the constant pursuit of objective journalism analysis ruined you?" I believe I was objectively ruined well before I became a journalist. I can promise you that. Look, my team is Victoria, and it's always been Victoria. I grew up watching Victoria, so I still support Victoria as much as anyone else. It's just that the rest of you aren't watching a lot of Sheffield Shield games, so you don't see me angrily screaming when things go wrong. But yeah, no, I have interests in teams. But once you get to a certain point, and like RCB, I work for briefly, so I don't have a huge relationship with them. But my friend Freddie is on the bench, and I want good things for Freddie because he's a really good dude, right? Like, do you know what I mean? So you end up, thinking about things in a different way, and so once you work in cricket,
but surely you have a side, you have one or two sides that you prefer, and you're like, I like this side, Because after following the IPL for 18 years, you cannot tell me that you have some sides that you prefer, Chad.
Yeah, I like KKR and RCB. I've always been, those have probably been the two teams.
There you
but
go.
I don't, like, I'm not sitting here going, I've won the championship. Like, I don't have that.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the thing I don't really get. No, I have preferences.
Yeah.
Like, I like Yorkshire and Surrey, and I like RCB and KKR, but I don't feel it the way that
Man
other
U?
fans do. Man U? What is that? Did you just make a
not a
football
fan.
reference to me?
Yeah.
If anyone wants to know if I still get passionate about sports, come on Twitter one night when I'm live tweeting a Denver Nuggets game, and then you'll know just how angry I get. My God. PJ says hotel refers to restaurants in India. Yeah, no, that's what I meant. That was my point.
Yeah,
was
yeah.
like, can I get food there, and also
Yeah, of course.
can I also stay there? AI says VK was super happy. Credited bowlers and IPL is now more iconic. I like that. I hadn't thought about that. But my favorite line was, it's 5 levels below tests. That gets you respect. I thought that was really, really interesting. I didn't hear it live. You and I were coming on to this at this stage.
No, I heard that live actually.
Oh, you heard that
just
one?
before
Yeah.
we came on live. Yeah.
That's a big...
It's true.
I know it's true.
It is true.
But it's a weird time to say it.
No, he actually mentioned that. Listen, this is right up there. It's one of my favorite memories. It's one of my greatest achievements. But it's still 5 levels below Test cricket, and that's amazing. I love it, and I think he wasn't endorsing Test cricket, but he was stating facts. He was just stating facts. It's the fact. Like nothing, I think, no tournament in the world is going to supersede Test cricket, and this is coming from a guy who's done everything in my career and not left any stone unturned to pursue that Test cap. And and that's, I don't regret it because it taught me.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Would you give up an IPL title for a Test cap?
In a heartbeat. Like, I've even visualized what I would do when I receive my Test cap, and I've cried in my visualization.
I love that. I also love how detailed your visualization is. You need headphones and Andy Flower.
It's that close to my heart. So yeah. I know the effort I put behind that, and if I kind of fall into that space and think about it, I probably get emotional about it. But I think for any cricketer who's played cricket and is worth his salt and has played first class cricket, or who's dreamt about playing for his country, has always dreamt about playing for his country in the whites. It's not been in the colors, to be very honest. If you're like, it's what drives the purists, because they know it's Test cricket. They know it tests you. Every session tests you. You need to earn every single run you get there.
And it doesn't take away from being in a team environment for months on end, for going through all this sort of stuff and then winning this. It's not like it takes away from that. It's just, they're different things, right?
And they're different things. Exactly. That's the thing. They're very different things.
And also, when you guys were 12, there was no IPL. Like, it's a new thing to it might be different for the next generation of cricketers who've grown up with the IPL always being there. Keshuv has said, Patidar's sort of been under the radar with the spotlight mainly on Kohli. Also, because he hasn't made a lot of runs. But what did you make of his captaincy this year? How much difference did RCB giving the captaincy make to their campaign?
I think a tremendous amount of difference. I think a lot of the calls in the field that he took as a captain were absolutely on the nose, on point. I thought there were a lot of things that he got right as a leader. Even today's death bowling changes. Man, that was like, he had that down pat by the 13th over. He knew he was going to bowl his last 3 overs, and he set up the whole innings for that to happen. So for me, Rajat Patidar, listen, Virat being in the forefront is always going to happen because he's a celebrated cricketer and they're going to celebrate him because he's also just retired from Test cricket. But Patidar has been nothing short of just truly incredible for RCB, and whoever decided to make him leader of this side, they had their head and their heart in the right place.
No, definitely. And then Crypto says, can we get a corner house in Victoria, Melbourne, please? We can get whatever we want.
Yes, please. Yeah. Have you had corner house in Bangalore? Corner house ice cream?
Have I had it? I don't
Brother,
think so. I'm not a big
brother.
ice cream guy. Do you know what I like? I like about Bangalore is like the fact that there's alcohol everywhere. That's my favorite thing.
Yeah, you get great beers in Bangalore. But this you have to, you have to taste. It's really nice. You get the classic. It's called the hot chocolate fudge. Oh, divine, brother. Just divine.
I will only have vanilla. So I hope they're vanilla.
Crypto, listen, if you have any, crypto secrets for us, always happy to listen to that. But
I thought you were going to say, if you want to buy a franchise, I'll sell you one. I know the guy. That's it. Us done for another KimAppa. We've done 2 this week. We did 1 beforehand as well, which obviously doesn't mean as much now. But thank you to everyone. We came together at the start of this IPL ourselves as our own new team. But this isn't just an IPL podcast. We'll be back from here on in. And obviously, there'll be a lot more shows in a lot more different directions. I'll eventually put the helmet on, which I could have put on today again, but it's beside me.
No, you're wearing the headphones. You're not wearing the earphones. You kept the earphones for a day where you didn't have a helmet. You didn't have a fucking cap. And then you just stuck something in your ears with your shaggy hair out there. So you need to get that helmet on.
It gets better. Like, I played cricket on Saturday, and you know what I forgot to take? The helmet. So it was here, because I had it ready for the podcast. And as I was about to go out to bat, I looked at my bag, and I was like, where's my helmet? So, like, I'm not using it on the podcast. I'm not using it when I'm playing. I'm just not using it in any way, shape, or form. So I'm letting you down every single way. Thanks to everyone for supporting the podcast. Please like, subscribe, share, do all those things. Thank you very much to our super chatters and everyone else.
Sandeep will be on Mondays. Don't worry. Through all of time right now. Do you see that question or not?
Yeah, we'll be. I mean, I don't know if it's always going to be Mondays. We're busy, man.
Yeah, but we'll be back. Yeah, we'll be back.
We'll be back every week. That's what we're saying. Yeah. Once a week, you will see KimAppa.
We'll be back every week. 100%.
We'll see you again very soon on Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday.